A very good morning to you and welcome to Morning Express. My name is Trix Ingado. Welcome to the show once again, and of course we're going to take you through the very latest in news and headlines, both locally and internationally. Stay put for that, and still we have so much more lined up for you.
Once again, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome to Morning Express. My name is Jesse Rogers. On this 22nd day of February, it is Super Tuesday, quote-unquote, as the political bigwigs have tagged it. Looking forward to 12 more counties passing the BBI bill, hopefully, and this will set precedents and the process moving over to Parliament. So we'll discuss this in totality, including the person of interest today. If you are a person of faith and definitely intrigued by the latest developments in the country, we bring you Kalonzo Wanaina of the Anglican Church of Kenya, specifically All Saints Cathedral. Interesting conversation.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to that. But before we get into all that, the papers are telling us from Raila's hard tackle all the way to Raila's, that's on the Standard, all the way to Raila and being under siege. So which is which? We shall be analyzing that and taking a look at what the press has to say about the leaders in the country, education, the health, the health sector, situation in COVID-19, and the BBI bill, and so much more. So we'll be taking a look at that, analyzing it and seeing what's what. But before we get into the local stories, let's take a look at what's making headlines internationally. And we shall start off to the west. On the Daily Monitor this morning, we are told Italian ambassador killed in the DRC attack, and this is the top story on the Daily Monitor, Ugandan outlet, and we're told about his wounds and the work that he would do, of course, in that country. Learn more about the demise of this clergyman on this paper, but far from that, how security intercepted singer with 48 passports. Very interesting crime story right there. And on top of that, we're told about security officials sacked in Luweza land row. That's what's making headlines, the top stories in Uganda. But in the opposite direction, we are having the Citizen from Tanzania telling us ACT Wazalendo names Dorothy Semu National Chairperson. This is on the political front of this paper, but far from that, they're telling us about how they're handling the COVID-19 pandemic. Tanzania government, a new strategy to contain COVID-19. The government has come up with a new set of, measures to deliberately move away from the spread of that, virus. We know that Tanzania has been very mum in terms of the numbers. Every paper says they have 509 cases, but we all know that that's not realistic, even just using common sense. So take a look at that and see how they're dealing with the spread of COVID-19 in that country. Then we're told former Bank of Tanzania Governor Professor Bernon Dulu dies at 71. An Italian ambassador, the same story that made headlines on the Daily Monitor, is here on the Citizen. We're told Italian ambassador to the Congo dies in attack on the UN convoy. In Rwanda, let's see what's making headlines. It's all about the education sector. Rwanda eases restrictions, opens all schools, and right there you can see pictured a student having their temperature measured. One of the ways that they try to, the world over, they try to figure out whether you're having a fever, and therefore, which is one of the symptoms of COVID-19. And then imported goods are apparently hard to come by in Tanzania, in Rwanda, and then more about WHO warning Tanzania against COVID-19 in action. And of course, Magufuli under pressure to declare COVID present in Tanzania. Let's see what they shall be doing in the next few days as far as that virus is concerned. Bobby Wine to withdraw poll petition. This has been making headlines for a few days now. Then we have Rwandan dissident killed in South Africa. This is not the first time a Rwandan political activist has been killed in South Africa. Learn more by taking a look at the East African. Then that envoy who was killed on an attack on a UN convoy in the DRC is still making headlines here, and Paul Rusesabagina's trial is making headlines right here. He has said that he is a captive of the Rwandan government, but right here Kagame has refuted claims that he was kidnapped. And far from that situation in the schools in Rwanda. Rwanda has eased restrictions and opened up all schools. Let's take a look at the CNN bizarre story making the headlines this morning. Japan's naked Pride Festival wasn't the same this year. And earlier on, we were making a joke with Jesse where we talked about them having to wear masks, even if they're social distance, as opposed to what's being seen in this picture right here. So take a look at that, the good, the bad, the ugly on those papers, and learn what's happening around the world. Now, Honorable James Gakuya joins me this morning to take a look at what's making headlines locally. And like I said, very contrasting headlines. On one side, the Standard is telling us Raila's hard tackle, while on the other side, we're told about Raila being a man under siege. Which is which? Welcome to the show, Honorable Gakuya.
Thank you.
Now, when you look at this, we're told a bare-knuckle war. Once bosom political buddies, Raila, Kalonzo and Mudavadi, are swinging low punches at each other, tearing the precarious tiny strings that still held the NASA house together. Yesterday, ODM chief posted videos of Wiper and NASA leaders appearing to contradict themselves amid equally strong volleys from them. Over the weekend, the paper, actually, the Standard that is, actually said this is a season of political marriages and divorce. Honorable Gakuya, when you see this apparent fallout, what comes to mind?
Let me say politics is a game, and most likely it's been called a game of numbers.
Yeah.
So rearrangements are arrangement to, for those interested in what we call the coming election year preparations, and by the headlines are telling us that there is most likely the most likely division between the former NASA brigade, and as it appears, it's like part of the NASA brigade has already taken their own route. Their own political route, and they have decided to take a totally different route from what maybe the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is taking. This tells you that at least this particular house of NASA house is in smoke. It tells you that actually the division is at high gear, and it is most likely Mudavadi, Kalonzo, Tangula and Gideon Moi have possible, has what we call possible correction heading to 2022 election. And most likely that Raila Odinga, he has openly told Kenyans that actually he's not going to back any one of them. And therefore, it tells you most likely he will form his own coalition with others that probably don't know. And we have seen him last week with people like new entry presidential contenders like Mukisa Kitui, Kifuza Kibwana. And we have seen a result where Kibwana, by yesterday, seems to have withdrawn and relinquished his hard nut of BBI. And this tells you that, in fact, there is new realignment, which are coming very soon. And most likely after the result of this BBI, we will find a very, very what I can call vigorous changes of political alignments.
Yeah, and in your view, is it possible, since the days of the Rainbow Alliance, is it possible for Kenyan politics to actually work out outside the umbrella of pulling together politically in order to form an alliance that will actually push one candidate? Because this has been the way that it has been happening, particularly for those in perceived opposition positions. But then right now, it seems like everyone, the weakness with that approach towards the top seat is that eventually your partners will want to be the ones that are being supported, and this is not going to happen according to what Raila Odinga is saying. So is it possible to go at it alone and actually win?
It seems that the previous arrangement, there was promises, and that is where you are finding Kalonzo trying to stick on. Where he's trying to say the two times he has been supporting the principal Raila Odinga, it was a promise that this particular time round he will support one of them, and he will not be a contender whether he lost in the last election or whether he won. But it seems to Raila there's a different music, it's a different, totally different music where. it's like he's not settled in that particular area arrangement or those area memorandums. And it's like, yes, Raila is still comfortable and stronger, and he's trying to send a statement to them that whether they are not going to be part of him, he will still find himself at the ballot on his own way.
Right.
And this tells you that Raila is now planning to look for new team. And actually the signs are on the offing.
Yes.
That actually the coming in of Muhiza Kitui and Kibwana. These are new signs to look for new kingpins to realign for Raila to realign himself with.
Yeah.
It's only that actually we are seeing there is also a big smoke within the ODM party, where we are seeing some element of the deputy party leader Joho also becoming so stiff in this contention also of this presidential candidate. We are still waiting for the last 4 days for the ODM presentation of presidential candidate papers, that the principal has not yet presented his papers for 2022 presidential ticket.
Right.
Therefore, we have to wait and see whether at the end of the day he will present himself for the candidature or whether he will leave the position to one of his ODM team.
Yeah, and it seems like the Daily Nation is seeing this situation through a completely different lens, because this morning they're telling us Raila is a man under siege. So they say as ODM leader faces a barrage of attacks from his former allies, NASA Deputy President William Ruto is using relatives to snatch his base, while key lieutenants in his Orange Party are going head-on with him. And of course, key lieutenants include ODM leader, one of the top leaders in ODM that you have mentioned, as Hassan Ali Joho. And of course, there's so much that is happening under his party. So do you see it as a hard tackle when he goes out and speaks against these former allies, or do you see it as him being under the weight of so much pressure given all that is happening? What is the correct perspective?
The correct perspective on this is that it is true that Raila's ground is also going to be a bit hostile. Yeah. Because when where he relied strongly in part of Eastern, his kingmaker in Eastern politics was Kalonzo Musyoka. Yes. Now that Kalonzo Musyoka have skipped from his team and have joined another wagon, it tells you Odinga must prepare for a big hit in terms of votes from Eastern Province. At the same time, even in Western has been known as Raila principal's zone, where he had been commanding almost 60% of votes from Western. Right. Then in this new coalition of Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi, trying to unite the community together behind them, it's also a big threat to the politics of tomorrow for Raila, because it's also a threat to part of his stronghold in Western Province. And therefore, when also you bring Joho in the same wagon, perhaps, and you are also seeing element of Kingi trying to come up with a new party in Coast. This tells you that the strongholds of Raila are almost all hostile, except his home turf. Home base, And therefore, it's a game to see, because Raila is a senior principal in politics, and he's not short of his plans. Yes. And therefore, we still wish to see how he's going to handle it. I'm sure he may not be able to comfort this big team, but I'm sure he can be able to accommodate people like Akina Joho and others to try to soften his ground. But all the same, the nation is not long when it's saying he's under siege, because he's attacked from every side. Okay. Yeah. And perhaps you are right in that that analogy. Perhaps he still has some more surprises from his bag of political tricks. Yes. Only time will tell. Now, let's take a look at another story that's making headlines on The Standard. I will stay in the kitchen, says Ruto on quit calls. Now, it further says underneath that title, under heavy shelling by critics who want him out of government, Deputy President William Ruto of
has fired back, saying he's staying put and using the analogy of cooking in the kitchen as that he will brave the smoke till the food is cooked. What do you make of that?
This one, let me say, surely Ruto is trying to respond, because at least even the head of state himself, at some point, he was very critical on the position of his deputy, when he said, you cannot be supporting the government where it is going good, but where the government is being accused, then you seem to have taken a different route. And at some point, the head of state was, yes, then if you are not comfortable, you better walk out.
Yes.
But he's trying to say he's stronger inside and is not ready to walk out. And this tells you that anybody who is expecting that this, the deputy president is going to resign anywhere soon, this is not his agenda for the moment. Yes.
And if we're going to stick to this analogy of the kitchen, if the head chef is against you, I mean, how much success can you have in preparing meals in this particular kitchen? What food is he speaking about? Because as it is, given him not being invited to critical meetings, there isn't much that one would expect him to accomplish. So to any observer, you would think that he would just, go off, because as it is, he has already made a lot of traction in terms of his inroads, in terms of going and making a name for himself politically and pleading to the Kenyans about pleading his case to Kenyans about his possibility and his abilities as a possible leader. So why wouldn't he just leave?
I believe because of one or two, three political strategies, the deputy president may not be comfortable when he's out of the government.
Okay.
Because one, he may feel that he can be threatened, and he may not be very safe when he's out of the government. But when he's in government, he's enjoying what we call government security, because the security is paramount. And therefore, sticking there, it tells you that though he's not enjoying everything, because all his privileges, he's not enjoying all his privileges, considering that actually in some serious meetings like cabinet meetings, he's not part of them. And actually he's been sidelined in making a lot of governmental decisions. It tells you that he wants to stay put there, whether he's been kicked out, because the constitution protects him.
Yes.
And therefore he's kicking and hanging at the constitution powers given to him, and he's enjoying from what the constitution actually protects his particular position. And this particular case, it tells you, the kitchen he's talking about is surely a political kitchen. But in the outer observation, you can actually see the lighting are totally on the wall, that actually he's unwanted character in the system. But clicking there, it tells you that he's not ready to move out because the constitution protects him, and he will remain there until the final whistle. Unless if the government have any other methodology to push him out, they may use it. But as long as it is his own decision, he's not ready to quit tomorrow.
Okay, and of course we'll be keeping an eye on that. There's a quote here just in line with what you've just said there. He has said, there are some individuals who are plotting to edge me out of the same government I campaigned for. It is for it to clinch power for 2 terms. My question is, when we were mobilizing for votes for the Jubilee Party in the 2 general elections, was Kenyatta with me, or was the political opportunist he is, or with the political opportunist he is with right now? Take a look at page 5 as well of the Nation and find out more about that. But of course, we've given you the gist of it. He says he will stay put and get out when it is time, or perhaps on his own terms. Let's take a look at what's making headlines also in the Health Department. On page 8 of the Daily Nation this morning, we're told experts are warning you and I not to relax. It says, don't drop your guard. Experts explain why COVID-19 numbers are on the rise once again. And you can take a look at page 8. Honorable Gakuya, what do you make of this? Do you think we have forgotten about the importance of, staying, social distancing, wearing masks and behaving responsibly as far as coronavirus is concerned?
It is true that actually Kenyans forget very fast. And you find that it's like Kenyans, most of them have already decided there is no more corona.
Yeah.
Which is totally wrong. Because the truth of the matter is that the virus are still here. And unless we keep on, the precautions, we are not safe. And what the Kenyans need to be reminded always is that particular song, that at least we are still in danger.
Yes.
And the danger has not gone anywhere. It is still within our midst. And the precautions has to be taken care of, and people must make sure that they are abiding with those conditionalities given by the public health, health ministry. And failure to that, we still going to see the rise up of these particular pandemics.
Absolutely.
So what I can tell Kenyans is that let us stick with our conditionalities, which are preventive measures of this pandemic, because the virus is still around us and, and still and we are still moving with it. And therefore, it is important to consider that at least Kenya police cannot be able to inspect everybody. So be the one who is in charge of us and making sure that your neighbor is following these measures. And this one must start with you. Because you cannot say that actually we are not abiding with the law when yourself you are a law breaker. Yeah. So let us be, all of us be law abiders, so that we can preserve our lives and together we can save our other friends' lives. Yes.
And the alarm is also, of course, as you have said, has been attributed to our laxity in following those health protocols. We are told on page 8 of the Daily Nation, at least 14 patients have succumbed to the disease over the past 6 days. And as the international papers have showed us this, this morning, there is a caution also with what's happening in Tanzania. The caution followed the death of Zanzibar First Vice President Saif Sharif Hamad due to COVID-19. There are also fears of that new strain that was identified in South Africa and other parts of the world that might be resistant to vaccine or even more difficult to treat and give forth also various complications that medics aren't very used to. So take care of yourself and the people around you. A global tally is also right here. On page 8, we're told cases in Africa are 3,829,185. Deaths are at 101,365. Those recovered are at 3,384,521. Globally, the cases are at 112,045,713. The deaths are at 2,479,626, while the recovered are at 87,405,892 as of today. So this is a situation that is still with us. Take care of yourself and the people around you by wearing a mask, social distancing, and of course just doing what you know is right in terms of protecting yourselves. But at the same time, there's more on there's an interesting story on page 2. I'd like to draw your attention, Honorable Gakuya, to it. We're told too tall to live, and pictured there is a very devastating picture. 2 giraffes are pictured there dead after they were electrocuted. Now, there has been an uproar following this. The latest accident paints a picture of growing concern of wild animals dying due to being electrocuted within protected areas and international flight pathways used by migratory birds. These are areas that they are meant to be in, but of course, they find that they meet their death in these areas. There have been an attempt sometimes back to have the power lines moved or raised, but there was not enough support from the right agencies. What do you think is the failure in this one?
One is that, in fact, our wild animals, we have the wildlife. Then the wildlife is the one which takes care of our wild animals. And this particular issue of electrocution, it cannot appear to be a very strange issue. Then, therefore, they know the path routes for these wildlives, and I believe that it is their responsibility to make sure that in the path lines where these wildlives migrate and walks through, actually are totally free from those kind of live electric wires. Number two is that taking the size of the animal, and especially the giraffe, and it is Toro size. It tells you that, in fact, also those who does the implementation or connection of those wires actually must also take concern of the heights of those animals.
Yes.
So that at least when they are mixing those electricity wires, they also consider the height of these animals, and therefore not taking such a serious risk of our wildlife.
Yeah.
Therefore, I can say this is totally a carelessness, and somebody somewhere is asleep of his job.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because somebody required to wake up.
Yeah, we have more details and help you understand why this is dangerous for those the giraffes, because the average height of a Rothschild giraffe is 6 meters, and even from the posts that you have seen, even in your neighborhoods, that is they're usually quite low typically. So that's why what is happening. We have the other endangered species are the flamingos, the lappet-faced vulture. We are having the spotted eagle owl electrocuted, and many giraffes falling and meeting the same fate as these two. Take a look at page 2 and learn more about that. Well, let's focus on the judiciary. This morning we're told on page 3, graft and ethical practices are hurting judicial services. This is what Philomena Mwilu has lamented, and there's more details on what's happening. She singled out 2 courts stationed after admitting that her office had received a number of complaints about them. Then we're having on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning, we're just told about the spotlight on judiciary. They're going to be taking a look at Maraga's legacy and whether or not he left the Kenyan judiciary better or worse. I'll start with this one of corruption and Philomena Mwilu's sentiments on what's happening in judiciary, the graft story. Honorable, what do you make of this?
My take on this is that it is important to consider that judiciary is part of our institution,
indeed,
which is also supposed to have seen assisting the nation in fighting the corruption.
Right.
And serious measures has to be taken by judiciary, and not unless the judiciary will clear itself in being seen acting speedily over the burdens of these particular cases. Because you find that when the matters are taken to court, sometimes they took a lot of age, and sometimes you find that the cases are just going in circles in the corridors of judiciary.
Yes.
And finally, you cannot even know how the determinations of those matters are being, the verdicts are being made. So I would say judiciary have to clean itself, and one who comes in must also learn that actually the former or the tired Chief Justice probably tried his part, but I can say he did very little in terms of making sure that the issue to do with transforming judiciary in especially areas fighting with the corruption have taken the first take.
Yes.
Surely we may require as a nation to see, as a taxpayers, to see the taxpayers' money were expended and expended in a manner that the results are being seen.
Yeah,
so
but Honorable Gakuya, we all know what the situation was as far as funds were concerned in the judiciary. So do you think it's fair, even as with this analysis pending by the Daily Nation, do you think it's fair to even make that assessment? Because he had some strong headwinds from the executive to face. This,
I would say, the Constitution of Kenya has given independency to our judiciary. And the same case, the independency is also given to other commissions, even the parliament. But we have sometimes it is unfortunate that you find also executive sometimes tries to mutilate the independence of these organs. And sometimes they may not be able to work very independently as required by the law.
Yeah.
And what I can also say is that let us see our executive always respecting the law. Because when we respect the law, all of us, right from the top downward, then it tells you that we will be all within the law. But when we start mutilating those independent organs, it tells you that you cannot expect good verdicts out of them, because one will make decision out of fear. Well, because at least I remember very well that there was a threat at some point, and when Malaga drew the first case of petition, of presidential petition. And actually, there was a threat that actually the matter will be revisited.
Yeah.
Probably that's why we have been seeing some issues within the corridors where budgets have been slashed for judiciary. When you cripple judiciary in terms of financing it, you are telling them that actually you are putting them behind and they cannot be able to perform their duty collectively.
Okay.
Therefore, I would say let us leave every institution as per the law.
Yes.
And let us also give our constitution the respect it requires, and we give it the best control possible.
Okay.
Because doing that, we will be making our work easier, and we will be seeing the taxpayers' money being used prudently. Because it's only by giving that independency that the results will be prudent. Yes.
Now, let's shift gears to, well, there's a lot about the BBI, but we shall be saving that for our next segment. But on page 12, it's all about the education sector. Now, we're told about, well, there's a noble story at the top there, Haji's legacy, Haji's last salary to be donated to orphans. And you can read more about that and see what's happening with that. But underneath it, we're told schools panic as state yet to release exam funds. Now, some institutions don't have critical apparatus required for KCPE and KCSE tests that are set to start from March the 22nd. And they go ahead to give us the numbers of the schools, or the number of candidates that shall be affected, both KCPE, KCSE, and 19.2 billion is the amount of money released to schools by the state and for first term. On the side, we're told about Kupet branch getting new officials. So there's a red flag here about managers of examination centers not seeing any sign of capitation that will be meant to be sent by the end of February as promised. Do you think there's reason to worry given how close those exams are?
Let me say we require to give what you call priorities first.
Yes.
And for the nation to have what we call a clear roadmap, we must first and foremost make sure that our planning is prudent. Yeah. And our priorities are given the first stake, because you cannot be able to plan for exams and you have not set aside money for it. You cannot tell us you are going to release these monies in the last minute when at least get or receive the best results. Yeah. At this particular time and point, the government require to shave some kind of usage and make sure that to those elements of vacuum we are about to realize are being sealed with immediate effect. Yes. So it is the duty of the education minister to make a pull to the treasury and make sure that the treasury makes the release of that money to the user with immediate effect. Otherwise, failure to that is a risk, and we cannot allow to risk another waste of another term. Because surely most of the students, because of the pandemic, are now pushed to this particular another extra year, where the exams were supposed to be done in the last December. But this didn't happen. And the government cannot start now to say that there is no money for the same. And we are aware that we did a lot of savings in that particular financial year. Yes. Because we spent very minimal in terms of education kitty. Yes. And therefore nobody can start to tell us there is no money for preparation for exams and all what is required to facilitate the learners at this particular point. Okay, and there's more on finances. Counties get a nod to borrow loans up to 60 billion shillings. Take a look at the Daily Nation and find out more. In the business section of the Standard, we're told this morning that the taxman has missed the target of 122 billion due to a weak economy. And of course, Watchdog takes on insurers over payment delays. Take a look at that and learn more about
about what's making headlines across. There's so much that we haven't touched on. So get yourself a paper, the Standard newspaper, and learn more about what's happening in your country. We take a short break. When you come back, Political Point with Jesse Rogers. We take a look at the BBI and much more that's happening in the country. Stay tuned to Morning Express.